slides. If you were watching the progression across the screen, you probably noticed that there was a couple of statements. There were a couple of statements at the end of that presentation. One of them was something to the effect that Kentucky's goal is to move ahead of the nation and to show the nation how to move ahead. I believe Kentucky is prepared to do both those tasks. But I want to start by expanding that word nation as we think about our challenge in the future. And I'll give you a couple of examples before I move into what I think is an imperative for action in the next few years. And just to remind everyone that as we sit in our little lives, our comfortable environment, the world is changing dramatically. We are, as Friedman has indicated here around globalization, he has indicated that the world has changed. I got my understanding of China from The Good Earth, Pearl Buck's famous book. That was my image of China. I got a new image a couple of years ago. That image came from a visit to China. I don't think there's been, and I've had an opportunity the last 3.5 years to visit several nations. I don't think there was a more impactful interaction than the one in China. I visited India a short time later, and I'll mention that in a moment. What is happening in China? Just hold on to that.
Okay.
Quick. The issue around China is one of a country that has, as all of us know, major problems. Major problems politically, major problems with growth. But I can assure you this, that country is on a mission. And that mission is related to education of children. It's kind of interesting to me that they're talking about things like equality, education for girls and young women, things that we don't associate with the world and the context of China. But from the Minister of Education, whom we met with, down to the classroom teachers in the classroom, when you ask them what they're about, you will get the same message. The disadvantages of democracy in this country. But they are on a mission, and they are going to do what they can do to be like us. And that's an interesting statement coming from China. When I visited India, when I visited other countries in the last 3.5 years, they all want to be like us. They admire us. You may hear about strained relationships between the United States and other countries. But behind all of that, there is this desire. And they have made a connection that if they educate their children, they can compete with the United States. That's where China, India are going. Now, as I said, I wouldn't want to trade places with anyone in China or in India. They do have major problems. They really don't realize that what they're about to do by educating their children is to create political turmoil in the next several years. But they're on that course, and it's going to change the world. There is a shift in power in this world, and we will be one locus of that power in the future, but the Far East will be the other locus of power. That combined with a reformulation of the world in Europe, with the European Economic Union, you can begin to see the haves and the have-nots emerging. But what's interesting to me in all of this is that we, as a country, often don't even recognize this dramatic shift that's going on. We can sit, and I call it the Dicey Jane syndrome, because Dicey Jane was my grandmother. And I used to sit with Dicey Jane on her front porch, and Dicey Jane could predict everything in her world with great regularity. She could tell you who was going down that road at what time in the day. She could tell you everything about the life in that little community I grew up in. And she could predict the future pretty easily with that slow pace. We're no longer in Dicey Jane's world. And it just, from her generation to my mother to me, the world has changed dramatically. So when we talk about showing the nation, and we talk about keeping up with the nation, that in itself is a short-sighted and narrow view of the challenges that lie ahead of us in the world. That is going to be a major challenge. For Kentucky, it's going to be a major challenge. For it is no longer important only that we are just as good as North Carolina. It is that we must change dramatically to take our role into the future. So, with that, it seems to me that we have this movement toward globalization. At the same time, we are beginning to experience the impact of new technologies. And our history is, isn't it, really a relationship between our inventiveness, our ability to adapt, to take our role into the world, and it is a constant interaction between human beings and the technology that's emerging. We had to fight in those early days with very primitive technology to create the frontier and to tame it. We had to compete with the rest of the world in the Industrial Revolution because we were a bit behind, but we did master that, and we became the leading economic power in the world out of that technology. We were among the greatest new inventors of this new technology. Basically, the world learned from us as this new wave occurred. But as I can say, how many television sets are manufactured in the United States today? 0. How many of the new technologies are being applied in terms of the development process in the United States that we can see them moving? And I think for Kentucky, this is a major dilemma for the future. I know it's important that we have jobs in Kentucky. I know it's important to celebrate the opening of a new factory. But I can tell you, that is a short-lived and a false hope that Kentucky will survive by competing with manual labor in the future. We will not make it in this world because the shift is away from the United States in terms of these kinds of jobs.